Hello and welcome to Velocity Talks. My name is Christopher Durham and I'm the president of the Velocity Institute. This is my regular opportunity to talk to all the cool people in private brand, the movers and the shakers, as we like to say, from all over the world. Today, we're exciting to have Emily from AWG. Thank you for joining us, Emily.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So before we jump in with Emily, let me remind you, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, please like. It helps the algorithm. And as we grow the channel, we'd love to be able to get the news on private brand and the interviews out to everybody. So Emily, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I live in Kansas City, home of the Chiefs, and I've got two young kids. So my husband and I live here, and we have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. So we consume a lot of private brands in our household
Yeah,
because
I'm
they're
sure.
all athletes. So they eat a lot and they burn a ton of calories. But no, I've lived in Kansas City now for about 15 years, on and off. I've had a chance to travel to some other places as well. And growing up in Iowa, I had a chance to also work there for a few years. So I spent some time, started actually my private brand journey in my career with Damon Worldwide. And I
Okay.
started
That's
at,
not uncommon.
it's not, no, it's
Nope.
definitely not. Great company to work
Mhm.
for, a great place to learn. And I really started at Hy-vee. So I was dedicated to the Hy-vee account for the first 2 years, really, of my career.
So
And
when would that have been?
oh gosh, that would have been 2007, 2008, right around in that time frame, and helped develop some really fun marketing programs for private brands there. Also had a chance to help develop their Hy-vee One Step. That's the
It's
kind
a
of the
great
cause
program.
marketing brand.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Absolutely.
Yes, it was such a pleasure to be a part of that, really helping develop the strategy, thinking through what products we should include, what the brand name should be, what causes to give back to. So, anyway, that's really where I kind of stepped into private brands. And over my time with Damon, I had a chance to go and work across a variety of retailers and then ultimately move out to Stamford, Connecticut and help oversee the domestic brand strategy for the company. So I worked with a variety of different retailers at the time on developing their private brand strategy and really helping think through what that meant. So I did that for about 7 years and I loved my time there. Had a chance to come back to the Midwest after having my kids, and I ended up here in Kansas City working for Smithfield Foods. So at that time, I moved over to the national brand side of the business, and I was director of marketing for the fresh pork side of the business. Really enjoyed helping build brands out of commodity category in particular. That was fun and really driving connection with the brand. I worked on the NASCAR side of the business, but also really got very involved from a barbecue standpoint. So I built a lot of programs around driving connection of the Smithfield brand within competition barbecue, which is actually a worldwide phenomenon. That is not just
Well,
a
you're in
Kansas
Kansas
City
City, so
thing. Yeah. So I spent about 5 years almost with Smithfield, and then the Kansas City Barbecue Society, which is an international organization, asked me to come on board as their chief executive officer. So I spent 3 years in that role and really helped try to drive awareness and engagement with barbecue around the world. There are about 500 barbecue contests that we officiated across the world at that time, and certainly had to react quickly because that was also when COVID hit. So trying to have
goodness.
live events where people are actually judging barbecue and eating together and trying to put safety parameters in place for that, I felt like now I can do just about anything. Anyway, I loved that. And during my time there, then Associated Wholesale Grocers came to me and asked if I would consider coming on board. So I've been at AWG, or Associated Wholesale Grocers, now for about a year and a half. And it's just been awesome. For those that maybe are not as familiar with who AWG is, it's a membership cooperative that really helps support independent grocery owners on really leveraging the scale of the co-op to help them be more competitive at retail and go up against some of the larger retailers in their markets. So there's so much intrinsic value that comes from that too. So just loving it, and the fact that it's headquartered right here in KC uh,
Yeah.
is fun for me. So Anyway, it's been a blast. I'm learning every day and certainly keeping me on my toes.
So Hy-vee to Smithfield to Kansas City Barbecue Society to AWG, which means somewhere in there you learned a lot about pork.
Oh, yes,
Somewhere in
indeed.
I actually lived in Omaha, Nebraska for a couple of years, and lots of Hy-vees there.
Oh, yeah.
So shopped One Step, and I
Hmm.
think they launched Barebow Beer about that time.
That's right. I
I don't even
remember
know if it
that.
still exists,
I don't
honestly.
know if it does either, but I remember when it launched. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you and I must know a lot of the same people from Damon too. So that's yeah, that's
I'm sure we probably do. And
so
one
get
thing
back to
about
Kansas City.
Nebraska that I love is Runza.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had Runza in a long time, but I love a good Runza.
I always and this is the foodie tangent, but the Runza thing, I always think as retailers are looking to differentiate and figure out new and exciting things out there, they for some reason think they have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
When I think if they just travel, they would discover things they could do,
for sure.
and that's basically a steamed Chinese bun from Poland.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that's right. Yeah, so fun.
and they'll sell it to you. I don't know if they still run the promotion. When we lived there, they would sell it to you for the price of the temperature that day.
I
So if it
remember
was
that
2
as a
degrees outside,
kid.
it was 2 cents.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's funny. Yep, I
Yeah.
can remember that.
Talk to us a little bit more. Associated Wholesale Grocers, you run the private brand program. What is the scale of a private brand program for a co-op like that? I don't even know.
Yeah. So our AWG brands are about, what we do about 1.25 billion in wholesale dollars this year. So that's really exciting. We've got 4 primary brands in our portfolio, and we have just a little bit less than 5,000 SKUs total across all of those brands. So when you think about scale, it is definitely, it's a large portfolio, and it takes an enormous team to really bring it all to life. So we really stretch the gamut of product development, brand development. We work very closely with our Damon partners as well to help us manage all of the supplier relationships. We have a very strong, dedicated sales force. So, with 9 divisions across our footprint in the central part of the United States, we have stores everywhere. So, we service about 3,400 stores across 1,400 member owners. And so with that, it takes a lot of people to make sure that we're driving the pull through, if you will, at retail. So that's one of the things that I would say has been a fun learning curve for me quickly, is that most of my background has all been retail.
Right.
So to come in and learn more of the wholesale side of it and how you still develop these fantastic brands that really help member retailers be more competitive, but then to ultimately have to create the demand so that they're buying the product, it's been a really fun challenge. And so we have just a tremendous team that's dedicated to that every single day. We do a lot of competitive price checking. We're always checking to see what are the new items that are coming out at other retailers. What do we think is possible? We have a lot of strategic initiatives that we do throughout the course of the year. And then also, our category managers really do a phenomenal job of being true advocates for AWG brands or private brands, because at the end of the day, they have ownership of the category, but they really need to make sure that they are keeping their private brands top of mind for that particular category. So we just got a great team here at AWG.
And they've got to keep those store owners happy, right? Because they don't
Oh,
have to
yes,
take your product, right? I mean,
that's right.
you're selling it into hundreds, thousands. I don't know how many individual grocers or
Yeah,
small chains or whatever.
there's about 1,400 ownership groups.
Yeah.
And some of them have one store, some of
Yep.
them have 5 to 10 stores, some might have 20 to 25, and then our larger equities might have 100 to 125 stores. It is very different than the days of just wanting to launch a product and all of a sudden it's on 3,500 store shelves. It's very different in that
Yeah, it's not
regard.
Kroger
So
pushing it out to
it is
everybody.
not. Yep.
It's
And I'll tell you, that's even something that, especially for newer supplier partners that are working with us, that's one of the things that it takes some time in the development of the relationship with us to understand, because they see our volume and they say, okay, you've got 3,400 stores. It should be a no brainer. We're going to drive distribution immediately. In theory, it just doesn't work that way, because we still have to sell that individual retailer on why they need that product to service their consumer.
It's yeah, I see this stuff all the time because we travel a good bit or we camp or we go to the beach or so you
Hmm.
get a lot of these smaller retailers that are a little more rural in different places. You walk in and there's end cap of Always Save. There's an
Hmm.
end cap of
That's
they're
right.
proud of it.
Yeah.
It's there. If they
Yeah.
weren't, it would be in the back corner, right? It wouldn't
That's right.
be
That's right.
on the front. So,
Yeah.
well, talk to me about the year ahead and what is your business going to look like, particularly with this economy and presidential races and all kinds of craziness
Sure,
going on?
sure. I tell you what, I think we're all still coming off the highs and the lows of working through COVID, right? So from a high perspective, obviously some of the sales numbers during COVID were phenomenal, but yet on the flip side of that is there were all kinds of supply chain issues, right? And so just what it did to our teams, to our retailers, to our supplier partners, people working around the clock to make it all happen. We're certainly glad to be through that part of it, but I think a lot of us are trying to see how do we get back to what the impact of that was from a sales perspective, because it was good, right? So we're driving towards that. Obviously, with the economy continuing to be in the state that it is, the need for private brands is stronger than ever. From that perspective, we are all driving forward in a positive way to make sure that the end consumer knows. We don't have to convince them on the power of private
Sure.
brands anymore. Not to say we shouldn't keep it all front and center. We should collectively as an industry, but they know. People know that they can trust the quality and value of private brands. And for us, from a business perspective for 2024, we just continue to make sure that we have the right opportunities and that we promote our brands the best we possibly can throughout the course of the year. One of the other things I would say that particularly the independent grocers are really looking for frequently would be things like shippers, displays. They need things that are fairly easy for them to execute without significant amounts of labor because again, some of our members are in those more rural communities where it is more difficult to find
And it might be
consistent
them
good
building the
labor.
shipper,
Yes, the
right?
store owner might be building the shipper. That's
Or his
yeah.
kid or whoever, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So that is definitely something that we take into consideration as we build out our programs. And we've got a lot of great support programs as well that we put together, whether that's NCAP programs where retailers can automatically buy into that. We do a lot with supplemental ads and digital coupon programs, things like that. So we've got a full suite of what we consider marketing support
Mhm.
that we believe truly separates us from other wholesalers and helps provide really all of the services and the tools that an independent grocer needs to be successful with their
And did
private
I
brand
see you
program.
relaunched the websites for the brands too?
Yes, we did. Yes, we just recently relaunched our AWG brands websites, and those are great references for people to find product information. They can look up where to buy some of the key products. That's obviously one of the challenges, right? Because we do
Mhm.
have so many different retailers and each of them carry different product lines. So trying to find that. And then we have QR codes on all of our packaging. So a consumer can scan the QR code and it will take them to those sites to learn more about the product and all of that. We also put together a lot of consumer marketing so that we're building out our marketing calendars and we'll build out digital assets and things like that that the retailers can utilize on their own channels because again going back to many of these retailers don't necessarily have the marketing staffs right like a Hy-vee
Yeah.
or a Kroger might and so to be able to provide them some relatively turnkey solutions to promote Best Choice or Always Save or our
Yeah,
Clearly
and I see
by
Best
Best
Choice
Choice.
pop up
Yeah,
on Instagram and various
yeah,
other places, so
exactly. Yeah. So we try to make it turnkey and nice and easy for our member retailers.
that's very exciting.
Yeah.
So, I know you also did a program where you did case studies with the university and
Yeah.
tell me about that.
Sure. So we have a couple of different universities that we have worked with different programs. And recently we actually did one with the University of Kansas. So we're based in Kansas City,
Mhm.
Kansas. So just about 45 minutes down the road is KU. And although I'm a Mizzou Tiger myself, I can put that aside
Mhm.
for the good of AWG brands. So we met with senior marketing students at the University of Kansas and they were each given some case studies and we gave them specific parameters with a budget on how they would launch a potential brand within the AWG Brands portfolio. So it was a great opportunity for them to learn and do some research to figure out, how do you market in an independent grocery store? Who are the competitors? Who are the consumers? And if they were to launch, what would they do, both in store and maybe with some digital marketing, things like that. And then we gave them a mock budget of $100,000 just to see what they would come up with.
Mm.
And it was just fantastic to see. Obviously, it gave them a chance to apply their learnings from their brand management and marketing classes. And it gave us a chance to see some different ideas on how you might bring a new brand to launch, given some of the more current tools and resources available, while still also having strong execution in store. So it was truly awesome. I think for students, it's wonderful to have an opportunity to not just have to be in the textbook and the HBR cases, which are helpful, but actually to be able to bring real life examples to the business and have questions. We also have a very extensive internship program. I believe we had close to 15 interns this past summer. So we
Oh,
had one for AWG Brands, and then likewise our marketing teams and accounting, supply chain, all kinds of different internships. So it's a great place to really try to inspire the next generation of leaders within the grocery industry. So that was awesome.
well,
We've
I mean,
also, yeah, yeah.
I think it's exciting. It's vital. I really believe that
Mhm.
we're in the middle of a generational shift with
Yeah.
retail, with private brand, with grocery, drug, the whole 9 yards, and that wasn't too many years ago, all you saw was 70-year-old white guys walking the aisles, and every year it gets a little more diverse and a little more young, but there's still a ways to go, so to for you guys to involve, kids that may not have thought about this as a career is exciting.
It is. And we're starting to do more with recruiting at Western Michigan, for example, because they have a great food marketing
Mhm.
program. In the last year, we have done some analytics work with the University of Illinois. So, giving them some of our digital coupon information to really help dig in and analyze that and help
Yeah,
come back to us with recommendations on how to make that more impactful. Again, real life, it's beneficial to us, but it's also really beneficial to those students to apply some of their learnings from school. That's just been, it's tremendous. And we actually hired our AWG Brands intern. We
that's
had a
fun.
fantastic student this past summer, and she is going to join the company full time when she comes and she graduates here in May. So, really exciting.
I don't know that there are any more generations of retailers or co-op workers that can say, "I worked at store number 1." It's just
Right?
not a career path anymore.
Right. I know. I tell you what, I started when I was in high school. I worked for a Hy-vee, and I had a chance to help open a Hy-vee in Des Moines. And it was just so much fun. I've always loved the grocery industry. So my brother worked at a Hy-vee growing
Yeah,
up. He was customer service. I did the deli, like central pay station thing, and it was a checker. Just fun. So
they're a great retailer. They really are.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about the future a little bit, because obviously these kids lead
Hmm.
into it. So it's all crystal ball. Don't reveal any
Hmm.
secrets. But what does the next 5 or 10 years look like for retailer owned brands, private brands? What's the potential? Where could we be? Where should we be?
Yeah, I think there's so many different things. So, one, as the consumer continues to evolve, obviously we saw a big shift towards e commerce during COVID. And I still think that you're going to see quite a bit of that around. It might not be to the same levels that we saw when people were truly nervous about being
Mhm.
around others and going to the store. But I do think that there's some element of that will always be around. So, continuing to try to find ways to make the products relevant and stand out on the digital shelf, I think will be really important. I also think that having a strong NBE program is essential. You have to do that. That is table stakes. We were chatting about that earlier.
Mhm.
But I do think that over time, we're going to continue to see, especially with the younger consumer, demanding more, whether that means more sustainable packaging, options for
Yeah.
things that are slightly better for you, but without costing an arm and a leg. I do think that we'll continue to see all of that. Likewise, based here in the Midwest, what we continue to see more and more influence, right? Not only from the coasts, but from people who are doing more travel, who are spending more time online and getting to know people from other cultures and having that expectation of being able to find that at the grocery store without, again, paying an arm and a leg. I
Mhm.
think you're going to see a lot of that continue in our space, very specifically in the independent grocer space. I think we will continue to see retailer consolidation to some degree as that next generation is coming into it, or people who are the owners today are starting to retire. If they don't necessarily have all of the family planning in place for someone to take over, I think you'll see some of the mid to larger independent grocers growing through acquisition. So I definitely think that's something we will continue to see as well.
I think it's interesting. I don't know. It's as we look across what's going on right now, particularly with better for you food, with
Hmm.
international food, I don't think the food landscape can stay the same as it was 20 years ago, 50 years
Right.
ago, because the consumer's changing, right?
Absolutely.
She no longer
Absolutely.
just wants to buy Taco Bell. She wants to buy authentic
Right.
Mexican ingredients or
Yeah.
Korean ingredients or whatever. And I don't even know that the national brands are living up to that expectation either. So it's an opportunity for us to play.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And also, I think that the dynamic of what eating at home means will continue to shift. Granted, I'm at a very busy stage in my
Yeah.
life with my young kids that take us to all kinds of different practices and things during the week. I will say we still try to prioritize having at least one family meal together every single day. But the idea of every household in America sitting around the table together and having a meal, it's just unfortunately that's not reality for a lot of
Yeah, it's
people
hard.
anymore. And so what that means in terms of convenient solutions, maybe freshly prepared meals that are easier to eat as you're dining out, you're dashing about, going about all of the daily business, I think that you're going to continue to see increased demand for that as well.
That's yeah, I have a senior in high school and a freshman in college. My senior in high school is an Asian food of all s every country fan, and growing up, I think if I was 16, 17, whatever, senior in high school, I was probably eating hot dogs and SpaghettiOs.
Hmm.
I come home and she's getting ready for softball practice, and man, she's got the bag of frozen dumplings out, right?
Nice. Yeah.
It just
I
doesn't look the
Yep.
same.
No, I was
Um,
actually thinking frozen dumplings for dinner tonight, believe it or not.
which is a great choice.
It is. Yep.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
exciting. The world's changing, and we have the opportunity to lead. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
All right. So we always end up with the same 5 questions. Here's the fun
Okay.
part. Question number one. What's your favorite word?
Ooh, I would say enthusiastic. I tend to be very enthusiastic, and I think that's a good thing to be and inspire others to be as well. So that's one of my favorite words.
It's a good word. Question number two. Are you more artistic or more mathematic?
We were talking about this earlier. I
Mhm.
am mathematic, but I would have to say I'm a little bit more artistic, but my art tends to come out through song. So
Ah,
I love to sing.
hmm,
I actually had a chance to sing at the AWG stakeholders meeting. I sang the national anthem last
oh,
year.
fun.
So yeah, that was nerve wracking, but I got through it.
That's a big song. So
Yeah, yeah.
awesome. If you could share a meal with anyone, past or present, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Mm. Fortunately, my mom is still with me, and I would still say that I would choose to have dinner with my mom because
Mm,
I don't get to see her as often as I want to, but she always has great wisdom for me. She was a teacher for 44 years and just a really good person, and I always learn something new. And she also loves private brands. So I would choose
Well,
my
we love
mom.
her then. She's on.
That's right.
Oh, number four. What profession other than your own would you have liked to have attempted?
I do love the art of singing and song and dance. So I would have maybe gone out onto like the Broadway spectacle if I could have done all of that.
The Broadway spectacle. What would be your perfect role? What's
Oh, one of my favorite musicals is Wicked. So I
mhm.
would love to
Just
be,
celebrated its anniversary, yeah.
yes, I would love to have played any role in Wicked, quite honestly. But I
Well, so are
belted
you
out at home.
a Glinda or an Elphaba?
I can sing both parts actually, but I
Oh,
would
that's impressive.
probably choose Glinda.
My as we talked, my kid's a Broadway kid too, so I
Yes.
know more about it in the last 18 years than I ever thought I would.
I know. I grew up seeing Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera. Those were always favorites, but I like some of the more current musicals. So,
Yeah, she just was in New York. Her college has a loft in New York, and over their fall break,
whoa.
she was there 6 days and saw 8 shows.
Oh my
My
gosh, that's
goodness, yeah.
amazing. Oh, wow. Expensive for dad, too.
She could stay at that loft for $35 a night, so that
Yeah,
wasn't too
that's
bad.
nice. The
Tickets
shows,
are
I'm
not cheap,
sure.
but,
Yeah.
it's all good. Alright, if you could speak to yourself at the beginning of your career, what advice would you give yourself?
Hmm. Don't be afraid to take chances.
I
Just
like
get
that.
out there and try it.
Yeah, you always miss the chances you don't take.
That's right. And you know what? Even if you fail, it's okay. It's a good learning experience. And I think sometimes, especially when you're early on in your career and you're younger, you're so afraid to fail. And as you get older and you have more experience, you realize that it truly is just learning. They're all just learning opportunities. So that's what I would say.
I like that. Very good. I get to end up and plug some of the things we have going on. We have the Vertex Awards open right now, just opened this week for entries, and it'll be open through January 31st. So it's our 11th year. Last year, we had more than 700 entries from 52 countries. Amazing private brand from all over the world. So if you haven't entered yet, please do. And we'll be doing award ceremonies at the Velocity Conference in May in Charlotte and in Amsterdam a few weeks later. So please enter and come to the events, and we'd love to see you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Christopher. I appreciate it.